Hello guys, so I wanted to tell you about racecraft and why it's important when looking at race. And then I want to get into telling you about race reductionism. So, first, race reductionism is when people make everything just because of race. And so this ignores all the other factors that can harm people. For example, if a black person doesn't get a job or doesn't get into a school, people will say, well, it's because of the color of their skin, it's because their race only. There's no other reason. But lots of white people haven't gotten jobs either, and lots of other people haven't gotten into schools, right? And you're just gonna say it's only about skin color when obviously it can be a bigger issue with a different reason than just skin color. And so let's get into racecraft. So racecraft means that race does not exist. Okay, racecraft is there to remind you that race does not exist. It's a social construct. And racism is an action. And the action of racism is racializing someone and then putting a race on them. So to say that racism will create race that doesn't exist because we're all one race, we're the human race. And when you start saying, oh, well, they did this because of my skin color, it's ignoring the real bigger issues at play, which for me and my research is poverty. It's the fact that we have a ruling top 1% that just makes decisions, and they have all the money and they decide, okay, this is going to be the popular industry today. This is going to be the bad industry today. And this is what I want everyone to work towards. Like, nobody woke up and said, hey, I'm going to just do technology. But we saw, okay, tech jobs have a lot of money in it, so that's a job I should look at. People think that these are set in stone, set by God, but no, it's just set by a ruling class of elite people who nobody really knows what they look like. Some names we throw around like Vanderbilt and Rockefeller, but really, we don't know. I don't know what's pushing this big machine. I don't know what's funding everything. I don't know where this money is coming from. But I know that if rich people will buy something, then now everyone's going to work and do it because they see the rich people want this. And it's the rich and powerful people, specifically, like the elites. That's what I'll call them, the elites. And so when you look at racecraft, it's like, let's say I'm a little black child and then someone bullies me. Then I'm going to go to my parents and say, well, they bullied me because it's my skin, I'm too dark, and they said I'm ugly because of that, so that's why they bullied me. When really, that's not why. Because you shouldn't ask the victim why someone is victimizing them. Because, I'm not that racist kid. I haven't sat like a fly on the wall, heard their life story, heard every conversation. I can't really say that they did it because of skin color only. And this is good because it opens up a bigger conversation to get to the real issue, which to me is a class issue. It's a poverty issue. It's a disability issue because our society is set up to make people work to the point that they can't give the proper love to their children, to the point that they can't educate themselves and they can't dream of doing better because there's no money in doing better. All the jobs that help other people to do better are low paid jobs. That's to say you should not do this. You see, we pick people out and we give them we use them as examples of what not to do. And then we'll pick people out and we'll use them as examples of this is who you have to be, this is who you have to follow. And everyone wants us to have this idea of being rich, this idea of working really hard, even though statistically nobody is going to work their way out of poverty. And a lot of poor people already have a disability to the point that they can't even work in our society. And even when we describe disability depends on the society we live in. You know, if everyone's using technology and you don't, they could put that and say, oh, well, that's a disability. You know, back when black people were slaves, wanting to leave slavery became a disability. And it hasn't changed. Like, a lot of mental illnesses are natural responses to our environment that makes people work so much. We're only for profit. We don't care about anyone. And that's why I like thinking about racecraft, because it's more bringing people together than dividing them, because race is divisive. Race is used to divide. We've seen in a book, it was about poor white people. I think it's called White Trash. And she said how this racism thing came about to divide people because, you know, the poor whites were getting with the poor blacks and they were trying to overthrow the fucking system. And so, okay, let's add division. Let's add even more confusion and add colorism and featureism. And let's say we hate fat people, then say we love them. And it's just like, I just think the ruling elites, whoever is ruling, they just want to add confusion and make things like that make sense, but then next year it don't make sense. And the real problem to me is greed, and the fact that people can't sit down and analyze their environment, their situation. A lot of people are not operating from the stablest of minds because they're so busy being overworked. And then that's why we hate black people. That's why we hate even white people, because we're like, we're all in a competition and I want to at least have a fair chance at competing in this competition. And so, yeah, I'll be the smart black kid and I'll be the overachieving one. So I at least want to be crowned for my hard work. But everybody else who can't work as hard as me, everyone else who is dumber than me, yeah, they can go and be left behind. But me, I'm smart, so I deserve to be up there with the rich people. Like, it's more like that. And then when white people get upset at black people for stealing jobs, they're like, it's making things more competitive. And now I actually have to start working 3 times as hard, even though I was already working harder than a fellow rich elite person. Like, it just goes back to people hate that we live in this constant competition. And no wonder nobody's going to help black people. White people have no incentive to help black people. They will never have an incentive to help black people because they're on top. And if you're on top, you're not going to think about helping people at the bottom. And when you look at things and say it's only because of race, yeah, it's going to divide people. Nobody's going to come together and actually end anything because they don't see it as affecting them. In fact, they see it as, this is making my life easier. I know I wouldn't want to be a black person. I'm so good. I'm having it so great. So I'm going to stay divided, and I'm not going to talk about the fact that 1% controls pretty much all the wealth and all these companies and just keep having their family placed in high positions where everyone else is trying to network to find someone who'll give them a chance, and just find some rich person to take pity on them and hire them for a job to pay them like $16 an hour, $20 an hour, and we don't know how to do it. And then the jobs are always changing. And then one day the stock market is good, and then the stock market's bad, and then everything's so unexpected unless you're just like a top percenter. But even then, you're going to have problems because you're following the rules that somebody is designing not with you in mind. You're following someone else's rules, and they just want to hurt people and be more greedy. And yeah, that's all I got to say about racecraft. Thank you guys. Bye.